this is the worst camera that I think I have ever used in my life for a live video. I mean, all cameras are pretty shitty these days, as far as the front or the screen facing cameras, but I should say most of the live feeds are crappy. But this particular phone I inherited from my mom, and she got rid of it because it was too slow. And here I am. I need to go out and get myself some decent hardware. So, moving on. Today I'm talking about existential crises. Crisis with an E, meaning multiple and multitudes of crises. This was a spontaneous live cast. I didn't intend to see. I just got a text about work. Shoot. All right. I'll have to get back to that. You see, I'm supposed to be doing other things right now, but instead I'm making a live cast. Why? Because sometimes it helps to keep me fucking sane and grounded. Talking with you all, even just having 4 people that are watching right now, I feel like my subscribers understand where I'm coming from a lot of the time. I'm not talking about agreeing with me. This is a discussion my friends and I have all the time about. Uh, One of my friends is really, farther left. One of my friends is farther right, and I'm somewhere in the middle, and I can argue with both of them and with both of them and have a great time, and we can all learn something from it. We can all benefit from each other's differences. We can all benefit from each other's, insights into specific issues. My buddy Scoey, who makes the hats, plug to rag hats. My buddy Scoey has been busting out these hats for the Dead shows this summer, and he's made like over 100. I mean, he's got this huge bag full. I mean, he's just busting out, which is great. It's good to see him succeed. And same with my other buddy Kevin. He's down at the beach right now, and they have a beach house down there and ride quads. And it's like we're all from totally different, but we can all get along and all have discussions about the same topics and interact without completely destroying each other. Even though I want to make this clear that texts are very misinterpreted, and I think that we've all kind of learned that we've all started to see that reading comments and text messages don't really give us the full perspective of what a person's thinking. This is something that took a while because it was new. It was new to all of us. We didn't have text messages, 20 years ago. I remember when I first started texting, and I was like, this is so cool, being able to use symbols and communicate through these different ideas of words without having to sit there and talk to somebody. When I'm doing something else, I can just respond when I want. But there are some problems with that. And many of these problems have led us to our existential issues that we have right now, or at least contributed to them. And so I'm going to go over that and where I'm coming from. Uh, what is an existential crisis, first of all? If you're not familiar with the term, you probably have heard it, but perhaps you need a definition. But just think of it as the basic etymology of any word: existential, existence. It's a crisis of existence. It can be anything, but it's often a crisis of trying to understand where we're coming from and where we're going. Because it is such a common thing, we've developed religions and coping mechanisms and different spiritual practices to deal with it. And there's nothing wrong with those. I really have moved way past, not just moved past dismissing or harshing on other belief systems, but rather understanding and appreciating them for what they are. The issue I've always had is when it leads to them, basically a person who believes something and has their own existential crisis relating to what they believe, and therefore takes it out on the rest of the world. In other words, if a person believes something really strongly, they're likely to take one of two paths. They either dig in there, and then they question it, right? Then they either dig in their heels deeper and just have more faith, or they completely abandon it and become one of these atheist YouTubers who are bitter at first but end up calming down. One of them is like genetically modified skeptic. There's another one, Telltale. There's a few different YouTubers that I've come across over the years that I watch once in a while. But there was a huge kind of atheist uprising on YouTube years ago. And this all relates to existential issue. Because basically what humanity is doing right now, once the internet has become the predominant method of communication as it is, we're starting to point the finger at each other, and we're starting... Weird. I've got these little birds chirping at me, and they have a nest in the front, and they got really frustrated because I was out feeding their babies. I was wondering, maybe they wanted me to help them feed their babies. No. No, birds are pretty fucking smart. Totally sidetracked there. That's a little bit of my mild OCD. ADD. See, I can't even remember the fucking letters. But maybe that ties into all of this. And so let me get back to the basics. When people have been lied to, or when they find out that what they believe isn't true, they often have an existential crisis. They want to figure out why they feel the way they feel and understand, I guess, how they can feel better. And that can often be having a completely different way of thinking, and that's difficult once you've built a system. And this is why it's why I consider that I probably have more, or maybe a stronger crisis than some when it comes to these issues, because I don't buy into anyone else's belief system, and I refuse to take anybody else's truth as my own. And that's not for the sake of, being egotistical or arrogant or thinking I know what's best, but rather just being a normal human and saying I know what's best. I know what's best for me. I could never convince myself to lie to myself, if that makes sense. And that's the way I think a lot of people deal with their crises. When folks are faced with adversity or difficult topics, what they do is they shut down, or they move right into battle mode. It's like, look at what's happening over here, and look at what these politicians have done, and look at what this guy in a totally different country that I've never met and will never affect me has done to some people that I've never met that will never affect me. That doesn't mean we shouldn't care about our neighbors or even neighbors in other countries. It just means that I've been carefully observing human nature my whole life. It's always been one of the most fascinating topics to me. And I've realized today that I've kind of honed it down to groupthink and why humans do what they do within groups, and also how different people are when they're alone with you as two individuals, as opposed to, say, them with a group of their friends online. It could be a totally different approach. They might tear into you and just be a complete asshole, whereas if you met them in person, they might end up being your best fucking friend. And that's a fact. I can't tell you how many people that I've had come, harsh on me online, especially back in the day of heavy trolling on YouTube. And I bought into it because I was young on the internet, right? I was in my 30s and I'd never had a channel or done any real social media. And so I was like, who's this guy talking shit to me? How dare he? Fuck this guy. And I'm going to tell him how I feel. But one of the lessons learned has been that doesn't matter. But I've applied that to other areas of my life, which allows me to not have to spend any more time than I need worrying about other people or other people's thoughts or opinions or issues. It is very selfish sometimes. You have to almost turn off that part of yourself that instantly feels bad for other people, because I have a lot of empathy for folks. It's something deep down inside my heart. And I'm torn between being a tough guy, and metaphorically, and being, just kind of a free-floating hippie type. I've had a lot of different thoughts in my life about what's normal and what's not, and what's appropriate and what's not, but mostly what works and what doesn't. And I refuse. It's like the old Groucho Marx shit. It's like, I think he was quoted as saying, I would never want to be part of any group that would have me as a member. At least that's how I remember it. But you get the point that in order to be a member of a group, you have to have a certain connection with that group, which means you have to think like the group. And I just couldn't do it. I watched this very interesting Vice clip this morning about very traditional, Jews who are against the state of Israel. And just talking about this shit just gets people's completely censored and deleted, but I guess since it's live, it doesn't matter. Uh, they are opposed to Jews having a state, but they're like Hasidic traditional Jews. I mean, the full outfits, and they do all these marches and have posters. And the thing is, they're against the state because they believe that the Torah says that if Jesus, or I guess God will not return, or the end days will not come before, or if Israel has a state, that they were supposed to get a state after this. And I was thinking about how they are so sure about themselves, and the other side who's screaming at them is so sure about themselves, and they're constantly at battle, but they technically believe in the same religion. And I thought about all the different Christian groups and sects who point the finger at even the church across the street. And that's one of the things I observe in humans. That's part of the existential crisis. You want everybody to believe what you believe, because if they don't, it makes you uncomfortable. And it's really simple. Basically, anyone who takes time out of their day to go down and argue with people who have the same belief system because they believe it a little bit differently, it's their own discomfort that causes them to do that. Because it's hard when you have to actually think. I hate to put it that way, but the old Carlin line always comes to mind. There's some dumb motherfuckers out there, and they're willing to believe anything they're told. And it's sad because I don't hate those people. I feel bad for those people. And I'm no genius. I'm just a guy. I just do my own thing. I don't claim to have any great truths, but that's the thing. A lot of folks do. They claim to have great truths. And they tend to be the ones that suffer the most from these, from the mental anguish of having an existential crisis. So I'm going to flip through the comments real quick to say hello to everybody. Hello, Bunny. Hello, Acceptable. Hello, Biff. And I wasn't intending on doing this live cast. It was kind of spontaneous, obviously. Hello, Bartley. Hello, Ain. Good to see you. You're out of prison? Holy shit. Oh my god, I didn't know you were in prison. Well, I'm glad you're out, my friend. So is Lucy. And hello, Leslie. So, good to see you all, and thanks for coming. And, as I said before, this is therapy for me, being able to talk to peeps. And to feel like, I don't know, there's something different about having a live cast where I feel like people can hear me while I'm talking. And instead of later, perhaps months or years later. It's a strange thing, but I appreciate you all. I really do. And thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. So anyway, feel free to ask any questions if you have any. But, I was thinking earlier about philosophy, which deals with a lot of this existential bullshit. Thinking back, we've got Socrates and Aristotle and Plato and Confucius. Don't forget Confucius. I have this 120-year-old Confucius book that I inherited from my dad. But we've got Plato. Then we move on to, more recent, like John Locke and Immanuel Kant, Voltaire and Hobbes. And all of these philosophers, even ones like John Dee or, what's the other guy's name? There was Descartes, I think, therefore I am. Einstein, of course, Thomas Aquinas. There were tons, but the ultimate philosopher, and people are going to think, that's ridiculous. My favorite philosopher of all time, out of all of them, was Alan Watts. And I'm going to tell you why. It's not because he solved the problem of why we're here. It's not because he had, discovered some amazing way to live that was the best way. Well, it partially was, but I've somewhat followed Zen Buddhist principles for the past maybe 5 to 10 years, somewhere in there. I mean, I've always I've been burning incense and meditating since I was a kid, and I read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or at least the psychedelic version, when I was, like 17. And I've always been interested in kind of hippiedom, if you will, so I've always been exposed to these ideas. But even as a kid, I knew that Buddhism itself was just another excuse for people to believe something. Even Tibet, going up to these monasteries, a bunch of guys in robes going up and dedicating themselves to meditating, that's selfish. That's not community oriented, or, being neighbors and really, I don't know, not having kids. Why is celibacy, a thing? It's just, it's silly to me. And with Alan Watts, he was able to pull out a westernized version of this and apply it to a Western way of living, which was kind of to be able to take shit for what it is. And because we don't have the option to go to a monastery, we have to work, we have kids, we have things to do. I mean, we could, technically you could, but we're not set up for that, and we know. So I don't know, there's kind of this pie in the sky version of what people think is going to make them happy. I need to stop my dog here. You knock that off, silly. Yeah, you're a troublemaker. But also, there was this book here, Be Here Now. This is by Ram Dass. Even though I could see through Ram Dass's bullshit, just like Timothy Leary and many of the others, Ram Dass was also known as Richard Alpert, and he worked at, Harvard, I think? Was it Harvard? And he was another one of those professors that discovered psychedelics back in the day and took off to be a guru hippie dude. But I wanted to read you a part of this book because I thought it was great. Now, this book is written in a format that's very unique and highly recommended. It's very poetic and picture-oriented. Some of it's very difficult to read, but, there was a couple of pages in here that Woo-wee. All right, here we go. This page here was this poem, and it's written vertically, and many of these are kind of along that Zen idea, but it says, that's who he is. Oh wait, I should start with the guru. Where there is faith, there's the presence of the guru. He is it all. He is all your impurities. He is all your corruption. There, he is smiling at you through them, saying, this too. He sees, he understands. Total compassion. Total compassion means you are the universe. You are all form. You are the breath. You are the river. You are the void. I'm trying to read it as it's written. You are the desire to be enlightened. You are enlightened. And then the next page says, which is the one I wanted to read, that's who he is. That's what a guru is. So any concept you have of any relation to a guru, obviously, is a hype. How can you relate to something which is already you, and everything you've ever related to, or could relate to? How are you going to talk about it? I met him. Who? What? I'm going to look for the guru. How absurd. You are it. It's really just another cop-out to be searching for the guru. He's your fingernail. Just bite your fingernail. You're eating him alive. When you know how to listen, everybody is the guru. Speaking to you. It's right here. Always. This is kind of the mentality. This one's about books, and I'm just going to read one more. In my case, I kept reading the books, but didn't understand them. They were using the secrets, but I couldn't hear them because I was looking at them from the wrong place. That was my problem, and I couldn't get my head into the right place. I still wanted to know. I knew. See? I was still Western rational man. I went and looked, and looked, and looked. And as long as I looked, like a rational man, looking, I didn't find anything. I just found my own shadow. All the time. That's all you ever find. Yourself. You only read to yourself. You only talk to yourself. You only ever know yourself. That is all there is. Strangely enough. definitely a highly recommended book. And yeah, most of the books like that. I've never read the whole thing. I actually bought this for my son. And while I was grabbing it off the shelf, I noticed this one, Carlos Castaneda, The Power of Silence, which I thought was kind of coincidental because I was going to make a video about being quiet, about how important silence really is to us and how little of it we get these days. So, to Alan Watts. He really puts things in a perspective of, you already know the answer, don't bother asking. And that's what Zen basically is. It's where the teacher throws the ideas back at the students. And I really resonated with that because I don't have any expectations that any other human has the answers to the questions that people think they want to know. And to break that down further, how many people do you think really want to know what they think they want to know? In fact, a lot of folks talk about the answers to life, but never talk about the questions. If you could ask any question, what would it be? And that's a difficult one. I mean, you ponder it for a while and you'll end up going through so many ideas in your head. If you could ask the universe or God one question and have the full answer to that question, what would it be? And for me, it'd be as simple as, is there something I should be doing in this life that I'm not doing? Because ultimately, I don't care whether life goes on beyond or before. If that's going to happen either way, the only thing that matters is right fucking now. Be here now. And the power of silence is what allows us to be here now. Too many people, especially in the Western world, are extremely fast-paced. This came up so many times in the last couple weeks. Videos from channels that I watched that happened to talk about, one was like in defense of laziness, the other one was, is lazy a good thing? Actually, I think one was wisecrack. But they're totally different channels, unrelated, and they came out just at the right time, thinking about what is laziness. It wasn't a justification to not do anything. It was more the discussion that we don't take the time to sit down and shut the fuck up and listen to ourselves. You know? We really don't take the time to try to figure out who we are. And I think that that's causing us a lot of pain as a society. As I made a video yesterday talking about how rap and hip-hop suck these days, and I also mentioned how there were plenty of shitty rappers back then too, but how the continuation of the idea of violence and robbery and, you know, people thinking that they're cool for having certain firearms, that to me is like so distant from anything I see as normal. However, I'm a supporter of them, and I go out and I go target practice with my friend the other day. We were shooting this zombie target, and it has these little blood packets where the heart and the brain is and everything. It's pretty absurd, but it was fun. And you know, it's like people are so complicated. Not making assumptions about other people is one of the greatest ways to ease our stress, our personal stress, and to get back to just not, you know, we spend so much time worrying about what other people think that, and I see this all over. Sometimes I worry about what people think about me, but there's people worrying about what people think about other people. You know? To me, it only matters when they're people that I care about and respect. So don't worry about strangers. Wear your pajamas to the store. You know, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm going to say hello. Hello, Riley's. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. 10 minutes or so. A tab of Sid. How come every time you're on here, Dan, you've taken some psychedelic or something? Oh, man. Well, I'm a psychonaut myself, and I've taken more than my share. I was going to eat some mushrooms earlier, but I had to go do some other things, and I really wanted to just take a kind of a microdose today, but I was distracted. I figured I would be distracted because I had to go help my wife at my mother-in-law's, and then I went out to lunch with my buddy Scoey, and I I've been thinking a lot about psychedelics lately and taking mushrooms because it's been a couple years. Couple years. I mean, they're around, but I just don't want to take them. Gandhi was from a Jain family, became a Hindu. Huh. I am, therefore, I think. Tombstone, good to see you, bro. Almighty Own, Theosophy. What's Lucy getting? Oh, she was attacking the fence. Hello, Big Ups. Not familiar as much with your comments there. Hey, appreciate that. Appreciate the comment. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Yeah, Lucy's name actually comes from LSD, from the previous owner, because we took her in as kind of a rescue, and he was kind of a douchebag, I guess. Tupu says, looks like it was written for children. Yeah, it actually, we are all children. That's the beauty. I hear kids screaming out there. My son's down to his friends. Blaze Foley says, Carpo, check out Mateus Tasso, Guitar Genius. Nice. I'll check it out, brother, my friend. I appreciate that. All right, Alan Wass, Terrence McKenna, and Ram Dass. Oh, man. Yeah, I mentioned Ram Dass, but I didn't mention Terrence yet. I wanted to get into that, the whole, like, stoned ape theory and how funny it is, some of his shit. And he went to La Chorrera and wrote that book called The La Chorrera Experiment, and I loaned it to somebody, but yeah, Terrence was an interesting character. All right, I think Phil, I need to get high for this. Yes, Nicholas, good to see you too. Good to see you, Phil. You worked 80 hours this week? Holy shit, dude. Well, fucking yeah, I'd take a shot of tequila too. Yes, Leslie, you're correct. We don't take the time to listen to our own bodies. Phil says, I have a firearm, but I conceal it. Yep, that's the thing. It's not about showing off a firearm. Look, I grew up, my dad taught me to shoot when I was like 9, and my first firearm was the British 303 from World War II, and then he taught me to shoot the 32, and I learned to shoot a 32 that was taken off of a dead German soldier during World War II by my grandpa. And he inherited it, and yeah, I mean, then somebody stole it from me. Somebody who was a quote friend. I never saw it again. But yeah, learning to respect firearms taught me not to make a big deal about them, right? And here's the funny thing: I learned to shoot. I always had access to firearms in the house, unlocked, just chilling, and never once thought about taking one out. And I was just smart because I was taught properly, right? But I also played a lot of video games, hardcore video games, you know, first-person shooters, those kinds of things. What was available back then? What, like Duck Hunt? But seriously, I don't know. There's something within our culture that's causing violence, and it's not the firearms themselves, which gives mixed messages to people. But yeah. Anyway, I don't want to get into that discussion. Let me see who else is on there. Tupu, mainstream rap. Yes, it is. See, no, and you're right, it's not all rap. And he was talking about listening to, God, the way they talk about guns, but the way they talk about women, the way they degrade women, the way they talk about firearms, and making robbery normal, but also the reverse racism, that shit just fucking turns me off big time. And I know that's a controversial one, but I don't think there's any excuse for people talking shit about white people just because they feel like they've been put down, especially when you're a millionaire rapper. You're doing just fine by this system. You know, it's like this. We have some really fucking stupid shit going on in society right now. A lot of backlash from communities and groups that were once marginalized that now want to marginalize other people. It's very strange. It's like the pendulum is just swinging, and I hope it comes back to center, and it seems like it always does. Hello, Sprocaster, it's good to see you. Phil says, lost Sid connection. Well, you can always grow some mushies, but yeah, Sid's different. Just go to a Dead show, they're touring. You can find some. Harrison, good to see you too. Hello, Blessed Man. Hello, Stetton. preacher once told me that happiness in this lifetime is fleeting. It's like finding one's purpose. Yep, you're correct. And as far as finding one's purpose, yeah, that's fleeting as well. I definitely have found that my calling one week is different than the next week. And honestly, that's a great topic for the existential crisis situation. Sometimes I really think I know what I want to do with my life. I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, you know, start a website. And then the next day it's like, or, you know, it might last a few months or even a couple of years, like with my herb business. And I'm like, it's just not what I want to do, really. And going back into carpentry and like moving back and forth, like my brain is so scattered. My crises are personally formed, and I think most of our existential crises are personally created, and it's by our own lack of action or improper action, which sucks to admit that we suck sometimes, but you know, it is what it is. So Leslie says Duck Hunt. Oh, Blessed Man says he purchased a rifle. Nice, dude. Yeah, I used to have a 22 rifle, and when the cops came and busted me back in '98 for growing my first 10 plants, weed plants under fluorescent lights, like 8 or 10, and they ripped the whole place, took all my weed posters, my poems, all my drawings, and you know, they were fuckheads, and cops suck. I don't like police, but especially when they're in groups. One-on-one, they're all right, I guess. But yeah, they took my 22 that I'd inherited from my dad, and I never got it back. But Phil donates $5. Thank you, Phil. I really appreciate it, my friend. Not much, but I love you, brother. If you're ever in Vegas, I'd love to buy you a beer. Smoke. You know what, Phil? I might take you up on that shit. I want to go to Vegas someday, but I've resisted it because I don't want to go to Vegas, if you know what I mean. Like, my wife's tried to talk me into, like, maybe going sometime. Well, there's other stuff to do, and I'm not a gambler, and it's only because of my addictive personality, but I don't know. Vegas is just too intense. I feel like I don't know. But I might be down there one day, and I'll hit you up if I do, and I really appreciate the donation. Thanks. Leslie says, Dead and Company are touring. Yeah, we have tickets, actually. We're going in about 3 weeks. Early July, my wife and I and our buddy Scoey and a bunch of other friends are all going down to the Gorge Amphitheater. Then we're going down to San Francisco to catch the very last shows, and it's going to be a blast. And you know, not cheap, but it'll be fun. It's like that's the only thing we'll be able to do this year because it's been a crazy year. I don't know. Manifest Destiny in the Dust Bowl. Oh, Dark Side of the Moon's great. Sorry, I'm reading through the comments. I should always point that out. So, Rob Stoltz says, hey, good to see you, Phil. Oh, yes, Phil, you should go to a Dead show. Absolutely. Blessed Man, fucking $10, dude. Thank you so much. He says, Carpo, so glad you're live tonight. How's the tobacco going? I have some started in a little box. Love the episode on the solstice. I'm feeling the burn those long days. Oh my God, dude. Saying tobacco really bummed me out. I've been so distracted with all this other shit that I haven't even started my garden yet at all. Usually my tobacco pods from the previous year grow all over the yard, but this year I haven't really seen any. And I have a bunch of seeds. I've been doing all this other shit. Like, we picked up all this awesome clear cedar, and my wife wanted me to put it up like underneath the windows and in the front, and it looks really neat. And then we started doing our yard, and then we got all distracted with her mom, who went to the hospital, and so we're trying to help her. So I was down there at her house weed eating today. So it's like all my gardening shit is kind of put on hold, and it sucks because if you don't do it in the spring, you're not going to grow anything. I ain't going to have no knee-high by July corn, but I do have a big patch of raspberries and strawberries. Oh my God, they're so good, and they're all ripe too. Raspberries come in about a month. But no tobacco yet, but I have very much loved growing tobacco every year, and it's highly recommended. I mean, I don't even smoke it. I have like a whole bunch of fermented and aged stuff in there that I'm gonna have to do something with someday, but so far I haven't done shit. So thank you for the donation again. Steph says you should not have your rights taken away for something that God put on this planet. I agree. I've been saying that since, 98 when I got busted? 25 years ago, I got a felony for pot. The judge said, as part of the plea bargain, which everyone always has to take, they would take off the manufacturing and just give me possession of an ounce or more. And it would be removable or expungable after like 5 years, 3 years or something after probation. If nothing, I never did, and I never got it expunged. And I probably should. Hell, it might even be off my record now. Well, I think since it's more than an ounce, I'd have to like go in and do it with the court. But then like fucking 15 years later, I got pulled over. Somebody else was driving too fast, and they found my weed, and I had mushrooms, and I got another felony for that. So I have 2 felonies on my record for plants and fungi that just grow everywhere, and it's really sad. But you know what? Back then when that happened, there wasn't a fucking legal state. Now half the states have recreational pot. I mean, the tide really has changed, and I think people should give a positive outlook on the fact that we are making a difference. When Kratom was under fire by the DEA and the FDA, we stood up and we had all these petitions. I had made so many videos about Kratom back in the day, and YouTube ended up giving me strikes. My channel got shut down for talking about dangerous content. I have to be very careful what I even say on YouTube. So I had a choice. Either I abandon YouTube and say, oh, I'm going to Rumble or something, which I tried. I went to Odyssey, Rumble, a few of these other sites. It's fucking trash. It's trash. I can say, as an almost 50-year-old, father of 3, I do respect having a platform where you're not going to run into a bunch of hate speech and anti-fucking Jewish shit, because that's what you find on a lot of those sites. And it's sad because that's part of why people are so frustrated, because there's so much hate towards groups people don't even know, and even groups people do know, but so much propaganda. Here come the sirens. Can't escape that shit. Flipping through the comments. Where am I at? Yes. Bunny Ranch. DJ91, good to see you, my friend. Thanks and welcome to the show. Menthol, same. Well, what the fuck up, Menthol? It's good to see you too. I noticed you were doing some little mentholatum podcasts for a while, and you faded away from that. I wonder if you have the same disease I have, which is like excited then fail. No, I can't even think of a good one. Like, I get really into making of videos, and I want to do like edited videos, and then I have to use this special software that I have to rent or buy, right? I'm a cheapskate. I don't want to spend a bunch of money on Adobe, and I don't even have a computer that can like process shit. Like, I'm still using this crappy like notebook from like 12 years ago. Seriously. And literally the computer in my garage is one I found on the side of the road. Somebody had a pile of old computers. It works. But I've always had a hard time going out and spending money on shit that I don't really feel like I need, even though it might simplify my life a little bit. My brother was giving me shit the other day for having an old crappy phone, and I was saying, honestly, part of the reason why I do is it keeps me off it. It keeps me from scrolling too much. I get frustrated and just say, fuck it, because it's all slow. I'm like, that's maybe not the best way to live, but I'm trying to cope with the modern world that we have right now, and it's difficult because the shit that's been going on in the world is not, like, I've shut down on the news. I mentioned this a few months ago, but I made a pact with myself to not watch the news this year at all. Like, I've seen, of course, if it's something about the weather or a major event that happened, yes, but not if it's about people or politicians or politics. I see, these things in the recommended list about Trump or Biden and documents, and I'm like, part of me wants to click on it sometimes, but then instantly regret if I do, so I just don't. I don't buy into the politics, and it's better for the brain. This is an interesting concept for me because it's something I've always known, that we as humans tend to kind of buy into division and the frustration, and we want an enemy. We're always pointing the finger at somebody, and usually it points right back at ourselves. unless you're being directly affected by a policy, law, or issue, you shouldn't get emotionally attached to it. And a lot of people do. They're out in the streets marching for shit they don't even understand. It's always been this way, I guess, but its fervor has become much worse. And I think that's because the whole of society is suffering from an existential crisis. And you could bring this back to philosophic roots of, you know, Nietzsche and the idea that God is dead, which is always misconstrued. But what it meant really was that people are always looking for an attachment to something. And what you can gather from losing God as a society is that people will look to new sources. Therefore, they will put Donald Trump on a flag with big muscles and a machine gun. Like, there are people out there, not just that made that flag, there are millions of people who bought that flag. Not ironically, but actually, that's kind of the impression they have of what they need in their life. A hero. Jesus was buff. And maybe I'm cynical about it because I think that people get taken advantage of by people that they admire. I always say be very cautious who you give your time to, who you give your mental time to, and what ideas and policies you allow to flourish in the back of your brain. Because honestly, life is pretty fucking short when you look at it. You know, when I talk to my son, he's 28 now. He's got his own life, and it's like, wow. He's 5 years older than I was when I met his mom. This is crazy. I'm getting old. But you just kind of laugh it off and move on, right? It's weird. But it's true, with age comes wisdom, but it's different wisdom for different people. In other words, just because you're old doesn't mean you're wise. There are a lot of late bloomers with information that just never took the time to understand themselves. So it's weird when I talk to really young people, some of them are extremely wise about these topics, but it's because they've been taught or spent the time to learn themselves. And the ideas I'm talking about are ideas like emotional intelligence, self-control, non-attachment, practicing Eastern and Western ideals and trying to mingle them. Because ultimately that is what they call integrating. And integrating is what creates integrity. Integrity of an item is important, and integrity of a human is also important. Not only how well can you integrate into a society, but how well can that society integrate into you, your life. It's funny because I heard something about this the other day, that a great philosopher, I don't remember who they were talking about, but that if you're able to think deeply, yet also turn that off and be able to mingle at a party with just average people, and I don't mean that offensively, but people who aren't interested in deep topics, and there are plenty of people I've met like that. If you can do that, you're better off, because then you're interacting in different ways with different people. And I think that makes us happier, having a lot more folks that we talk to and make part of our lives, I guess. Even if they're not interested in the same things. The internet's allowed us to really kind of delve into these separate groups. And once in a while, it's good to get out and just see people, different types of people. That's why I like going to concerts and events, you know. But, wow, I just looked at the camera and it said 44:44. Pretty trippy. But I think I'm going to go pretty soon. Xanax. He says Xanax. That was funny because at the beginning I was talking about how shitty rap and hip hop are now. And I forgot to mention, it wasn't just the guns, drugs, and their abuse of women, but talking about Xanax. And I was thinking, when we were kids, they might talk about using guns to get revenge on somebody, or talk about smoking weed. But now, no, of course, it's just robbing and eating Xanax. It's like, and these young rappers that fucking take Xanax and rap about it, they're fucking shitbags. I think it's a horrible example to set for the young kids. It's just disgusting. Disgusting. El Menthol says he has a new channel. Tombstone says, why can't we speak critically without it being mistaken for hate? That's a great question. I don't know. It depends on what it is. And sometimes it is based on hate, but it depends on what the specific topic is. But because a lot of people are extremely sensitive about everything right now, and they need to fucking get over it. But alcohol is technically worse than heroin. Oh, I disagree with that, big ups. I mean, I drink moderately, right? I have a couple of beers here and there. It's very hard to find a moderate heroin user. Most people who use heroin don't have families. It seems to be something, it's a drug of despair. It tends to be a drug people use when they may have a partner who also uses, but often they meet through drug use. This isn't always true. It could be despair within your relationship. But the thing is, heroin fills a void for a lot of people that they don't get, a connection. And it's a horrible thing. Alcohol, of course, can be abused just as bad. And interestingly enough, I've had friends who can't stop. They just keep drinking. And for me, I can just have a beer or two and be fine. Like, I don't want to drink anymore. So I think it depends on the moderation. But I think it is worse. I agree with you in the sense that it's considered acceptable. That's what makes it bad. Yeah, it's pretty fucking nasty shit. It really is. Right on, Menthol. Been consistent with the podcast. That's great. Yeah, I haven't been consistent with my... Jeremy said I haven't been consistent with my podcast because I've been busy. Jeremy says, hello, you look old today. Too much stuff going on? Well, geez, Jeremy, that's a fucking dick thing to say. I'm just kidding. No, as I mentioned in the beginning, you probably weren't here. I have a really shitty camera. It's got like a screen. It's a front-facing phone camera, and the screen is just horrible. So it probably picks up every line on my face. And I didn't take the time to set up any fancy lights because I just don't care. I am old. I'm almost 50, bro. Hey, good to see you, Adam. The T-Mobile commercial. Which one? I haven't seen any commercials in a long time. Where am I? Hopefully there's not too many. Oh, yeah, okay. I have to... Young purple drink. Oh, yeah, see, I didn't even say anything about lean, which is codeine and cough syrup. Yeah, they're not just drinking a beer. They're having fucking codeine and cough syrup. The rappers are sponsoring pharmaceuticals. So, yeah. Anyway. Adam says, alcohol has a long history with positive connotations as well. That's a great point, Adam, actually. And as a social lubricant, it's a very useful tool. For people who don't want to take MDMA and who maybe can't connect well with other people, which, I tend to be a little awkward around people. And when I can let loose, it helps. I feel more talkative and I feel like I'm happier and more. It's just you can't depend on that to be who you are. If alcohol is the person you are all the time, then that's a bad idea. But yeah, it does have positive connotations with celebrations, and definitely that shouldn't be overlooked. But anyhow, so I've been going through a lot of things in my head lately, and whoops. I started the video late because I was working on this draw knife. If you've never seen one of these, it's basically a knife you hold by the two handles and you pull it towards you. And it's razor sharp. It cuts wood. And I've always wanted to restore this thing. I've got a bunch of old tools that I've got from like my friend and stuff, and his grandpa, and that's like the perfect guitar neck making tool there. Anyhow, getting sidetracked again. Maybe it's time to go eat. I think I haven't eaten. I really didn't want to do a long live cast. I figure I'll make it till an hour, so that's another 10 minutes. But my wife has to stay at her mom's to help her out tonight, and my youngest son is staying at his cousin's house, so it's just me and my 13-year-old son. He's in there gaming right now, but I'm gonna force his ass out, take him to Five Guys, and then go on a walk to the park, take the dog. What do you think, Lucy? You want to go on a walk later? Do you? It's gonna be a while. Don't want to get too excited. I love that dog. She's quite a dog. Hey, baby. You look cozy. Your ears perked up, huh? She loves it. Oh, here we go. Hi. You want to say hi? Hi, baby. Hey. Oh, good girl. Now she expects something. Oh, don't worry. We're going a little while. Lucy's been with us for about 3 years now. She's an awesome husky. Hold on. I gotta pull a little hair thing out. There we go. Good dog. So, the point of this live cast, I guess, was just to have a little discussion with you all and talk about life's issues. But really, there are so many that I couldn't even begin to list some of the bullshit that I've had to go through in my life, and you couldn't list the shit you've had to go through in your life. And ultimately, we are all separate sacks of meat with our own unique egos and brains. Regardless, I think it's one of the most useful things is to not look too closely at things that cannot be answered. And I think that this has helped me personally. These are the only tips I can give to existential issues. Stop thinking too much. I don't care whether the universe is infinite. I don't care whether we're living in a simulation. I don't care what infinity is. I don't want to know whether life goes on forever or any of these questions we know we cannot adequately answer completely. And it's this idea of focus on the things that you can know. And that's why I'm fascinated with people, trying to understand why people do what we do. I mean, I'll never understand people as a whole, but the better I understand humanity, the better I understand myself. And that helps me feel more grounded. There are some days when I just feel spacey as hell, just like not motivated, kind of out of my element, and other days where I feel phenomenal. And there's so many factors that go into even that. Did I eat properly? Am I hydrated? Have I taken any substances, or have I maybe not taken substances? Did I have to work? Was I moving my body, or was I being lazy? And the point I'm making is trying to understand yourself is difficult enough. I just roll my eyes when people think they understand other people. Especially since the part we express to the world is always completely different from who we truly are. And always has been. So. Oh, Tombstone's talking about the natural lighting thing. No, it's this phone. I've tried a million different ways. But it doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm out of here anyway. I need to go eat. So I'm going to talk to you guys next time. Blessed Man says, have gun at Five Guys. Holy shit, are they going to shoot me? I know what you meant. Have fun. But anyway, you guys are all fucking awesome. And maybe when I get back tonight, maybe I'll do another one if I feel up to it. But I kind of wanted to complete it, but I got to eat now. So, peace and love. And, Mo, bye now.